Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Empower Your Soul. I am so excited today to have Jessica Rivera here, also known as Charmed Astro Intuition on all of the socials. Jessica and I met many years ago as part of a teaching spirit school, and we've been in touch ever since. And I'm just so excited to have her here today. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, Nicole. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and especially because I'm going to be talking about all things astrology.
Yes, I'm so excited too. So, little quick bio for those of you that are not familiar with her. She is a light worker, an intuitive astrologer, and a soul growth practitioner whose mission is to help raise the collective consciousness by working with one client at a time. Through her intuitive abilities, she connects her clients to their highest timelines and can connect them to important messages meant to bring growth, prosperity, and abundance into their lives. So, I'm actually so excited to have her today because I know how talented she is in the astrology space and obviously in the mediumship and Akashic record space as well. And I reached out to her, if you don't mind me starting there, because I got an intuitive hit to talk about the monthly energies of what is coming up. So we're here today to talk about the astrology of September and also in parallel also connect to the Akashic records and see if there's any additional messages or information that we can bring up to help with understanding what to expect and prepare for what's coming up each month. And Jessica was on board. So I'm so grateful for you, Jessica.
Oh my God. Yes. Usually, when I'm just like talking to people socially, it just kind of weaves its way into my conversation. And I feel bad sometimes for the people I'm talking to that are like, what is she talking about? So to be able to actually speak to people who want to hear this is even better because I mean, once I get going, I have to rein myself in. So I'm ready to do this. This is so exciting.
It's amazing. Before we get into September, how did you get into this work? I don't know if I know your background story.
Well, as far as astrology goes, I mean, I've always been a super sensitive person my entire life. A lot of us intuitives would describe ourselves that way. I've always been very super sensitive, and I had just a general interest in astrology when I was younger. I'd flip to the back of the magazines and see what your horoscope said for the month. And, they would have little features about your compatibility and all that stuff. And if you're a Gemini or a Cancer, what does that mean about you? And you read, all that fun stuff as a teen. But then as I started to get older, I started to um, read my monthly horoscopes from I guess established astrologers, and was always blown away at how accurate it was. I was like, how did they know that I was going to be traveling? How did they know that that was going to happen? They would be talking about things that were somewhat specific that I'm like, okay, well, what does my other friend's thing say? And she would have something totally different. I'm like, okay, there's something here. So it wasn't until I started to get into the weeds that I realized that I can really make sense of all of and it could be very complicated and nuanced, but I started to kind of go down the rabbit hole and come back up for air and have all this knowledge to share. I have a best friend who always jokes, and she's like, I don't know what any of that means, but I'm glad that you do and you can explain it to me. Like, I'm glad that you know this stuff so you can tell me what it means. I'm kind of like the whisperer. She's like, I don't want to read everything that you do to get to where you got to, but I just want you to tell me it. I'm like, I'm happy to do that.
That why we get along so well because I'm in the same boat. I'm like, it's Greek to me. I know it's amazing. I know it's intuitive and I know it's so real astrology, but also when I look at like the 12 whatever it is zodiac signs and nope, I'm out. Like I'm just out. It's way too much for me.
Yeah, and I am a double air sign and I'm a double Mercury. So I feel like that really heady space is my wheelhouse. That's my zone of genius. I'm like totally into it. I can make sense of it. I'm not scared of it. And I like to kind of translate it for people because I mean, who has the time to figure all that out? You just want to know what it all means. And that's totally fine. I'm happy to be that person, you know? But the interesting thing, there's so many different types of astrology. You've got mundane astrology, you have predictive astrology, you have astrology for all kinds of specific things, you know? And going back to the intuitive side of myself, when I find a very interesting thing happens, because when I'm working with my clients and I'm looking at their birth chart, which is like a map of the soul, where everything was in the sky when they were born, I begin to see how it all converts into the day to day. I talk to them about their soul growth, their challenges, the things they're meant to do in this life. And that's when I start to get the intuitive hits. So I call myself an intuitive astrologer because as I'm looking at the map and understand what this all means, I start to get intuitive hits, and it really, really anchors and connects the client that I'm working with into, you know, everything that our session touches on.
I love that because I think there is I have so let me maybe caveat this before I say this because I have the utmost respect for astrology and I know that all of the hard work it takes to learn everything and decipher everything and I like there's trines and sextiles and like all these different things, right? So there I know there is deep complexity and deep meaning and insights that can be gained from the work, but also I come from so me being a Libra and a double Aries, like so air sign as well. I also think that it's uh, a modality that everyone can learn. So I love that you add the intuition on top of it because I think it's wonderful as a starting point. And like if you talk to anyone like my husband who's super skeptical about all this stuff, he's like, "Well, of course, it's so general, right? It's so general." But I love that you add the intuitive on top of the information to make it really practical and real for your clients. And I think for me, that's what sets you apart in this field.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I feel like the more you know it, the more it's easy to explain to somebody who maybe doesn't fully understand the ways in which it is very unique to them, you know,
Hmm.
because it's very layered, right? Like, how many times have you read something that said, like, a Libra is like this, right? And one Libra is different from the next, different from the next. Even people who were born on the same day, sometimes they couldn't be more different. What's that all about? Well, the deeper you go into astrology, the more it starts to explain, because it's not just, I always say this to people when they go, well, I'm a Scorpio, but I'm nothing like a Scorpio. I say you're so much more than where the sun was when you were born, because the sun may be transiting through a particular sign, but the truth is that we're so much more than that one thing. We are so complex as humans, you know, and that's where, you know, the average person who would say, for example, like your husband, like, okay, but it's general, you know, like, okay, but I'm a blank. And that, you know, there's just so many layers there that, you know, and it's okay.
Yeah.
People, you know, we say all the time, it's good to have healthy skepticism, and you don't have to believe what I believe. And that's totally, you know, that's totally what makes the world a great place, you know. But yeah, so I
It,
digress.
it's true. He's a Leo, by the way. So I think that explains everything.
Well, happy Leo season to him. Happy birthday season.
So true. It's
It
so
sounds like
true.
it sounds like he probably has, if I had to guess, so here's a little
Oh, let's
fun
go.
factoid.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you and your audience. So whenever I have this working theory that whenever I talk to somebody who is a specific sign and they say, I don't really resonate with, you know, blank, right? I don't really feel like a whatever their sun sign is. I have this working theory that their Mercury sign, so the planet Mercury rules the consciousness and cognition and the way that somebody thinks, their thinking process. Um, you know, can people be easily swayed? Are they really stubborn, for example, really fixed in the way that they think, etc.? Um, it tends to shape the way somebody thinks. And
Mm,
so when Mercury is never very far from where the sun is. So Mercury can either be in the same sign as your sun sign, the sign ahead, or the sign behind. So I would venture to guess that, maybe he's got that analytical, um, really like, what do we have in front of us, tangible, which is Virgo, and Virgo's the sign that comes after Leo. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's somebody who looks at the dollars and cents and in front of him and says like, okay, like, what do we have? What are we doing here? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. It makes sense in my head. I don't know if it's translating, but that's
Spot
my
on.
working theory.
I think that is brilliant, actually, and you couldn't be more spot on because he is very black and white. He is very analytical. He works in corporate America. So yeah, I can completely completely take that.
Love
Love
that.
it. Oh my goodness. Well, before we get into the month of September, is there anything else you want people to know about astrology as a background, or anything that you want to caveat before we get into September?
I'll just say that astrology is such an interesting tool. And I mean, in my work, I'm such a versatile person in the way that I show up for my clients that I have done so many different things that maybe the average person wouldn't even think of. For example, I have a client who has asked me to look at the calendar and give me some good potential wedding dates for me and my fiance, and I'll look at her and her fiance's, birth charts, and then go, and say, okay, here we've got this date, this date, this date. And that's kind of like something that not a lot of people realize, that like depending on your cosmic makeup, some days are better than others. And certain important dates, there's a lot of talk about how certain high profile musicians will look at the stars and kind of decide to release an album or a single on a specific day, and it just is like makes such a mega impact. I mean, using astrology to your benefit can be something that maybe you've never thought of that you want to explore.
Ooh, I love that I never thought about that. There has to be, I don't know why it's popping up in my head. There has to be something about Taylor Swift and the days that she releases her albums. Is that right? Not that I'm a Swiftie or anything, but
I'm not a Swiftie, but I am friends with so many people who like ride hard for Taylor, and I definitely think that she's in on it. Her and Beyonce are the two people that come to mind immediately when I think about them and being in tune with their astrology and what works best for them and their audience.
oh, I love that so much. So I'm rebranding right now. So I'm taking this in the back of my mind to be like, when should my rebrand date be? So thank you for that. I
I'm
love it.
here. I'm here for it all.
I love it. So should we get into September then and how it
Yeah.
feels?
Yeah, so let's do it.
Okay, that sounds great. And just a reminder for my audience that I love how you said it. Jessica and I were talking right before we hopped on here, and she said she likes to break things down for people that are astro curious, and I think that's a perfect definition of me because I can't fathom this stuff. So I'm going to let her lead the way, and she's going to break it down simply, mainly for me, but hopefully for some of you in the audience as well. And then we'll kind of go back and forth and see if the Akashic Records has anything to add or say about the predictions.
Okay, let's
Cool.
do it.
Do it.
Okay. All right. So, we are heading into eclipse season as we start the new month of September. And during eclipses, what tends to happen in the way that I describe it is kind of like the universe taking the wheel. So, what that means is a lot of times with the moon cycles at full moons and new moons, people like to work with that lunar energy to kind of use that momentum, that lunar cycle to kind of help propel their intentions. For example, releasing, I want to release this anger, this resentment, etc. Or I want to invite in abundance and love, etc. So people like to work with the lunar cycles, but the eclipse seasons happen alongside the lunar cycle of a full moon or a new moon. And basically, the universe is at the helm. They are the ones who are self correcting. And this is how I like to explain it. And this is how how I make heads and tails of all this stuff because it could be so nuanced. So basically, September 1st, well, really at the end of August and September 1st, we start to kind of feel things picking up as eclipse season gets started. The planet Saturn, which is considered the planet of karma, the planet of time, the keeper of time, and let's see, discipline, duty, responsibility. That planet is beginning to retrograde on September 1st. So people who are associated with maybe Capricorn, for example. Saturn rules Capricorn. So Capricorns may start to feel this, or really personally, we'll all feel this in different ways depending on where Saturn is in your chart and where Capricorn is in your chart, because Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. It's going to start to move from Aries, which is a fire sign, back up into Pisces. So let me just also say that for the astro curious that are not too sure about what that all means, the zodiac wheel starts with Aries as the very first sign, and it goes around in order and ends at Pisces, which is the very last sign. So what this means for us when Saturn begins to retrograde and move backwards into this sign of Pisces is we're going through this ending and release, and we're ending cycles and beginning new ones. So this pattern has been happening a lot and will continue to happen, where a lot of these planets that just entered Aries, which is start of the zodiac wheel, fresh new beginnings, start to move back into Pisces. And what that's meaning for us is that maybe we are getting an opportunity or a look at something that's no longer fitting, that we're kind of outgrowing, moving beyond, evolving past. And it's really giving like ripe potential for releasing, and it kind of coincides with the themes of eclipse season because we are going to be eclipsing in Pisces and Virgo. So as we enter Virgo season, we are going to be, having those themes of endings and releasing. I'll pause there.
I love that because I was feeling that already in the records before we started recording, because I was just feeling like the first week in September or so, and I know I realize it's the beginning of the entire eclipse season, but the first week in September for me felt more calm and even keel, and people, I think it's only natural, and maybe I'm a little more biased because I have two kids, right? But it feels like people are getting back into the routine of things post summer. And so for me, energetically, it felt very busy but calm, busy but steady. And so it doesn't surprise me at all that you're talking about Saturn and retrograding and moving from Aries to Pisces, because because I think that people probably have started a lot of new things in the summer, and they probably are now going to run out of time to do maybe some of the things they've started, and or they've run out of time with other things, and so that shifting and bringing back the routines and stability. Let me see if there's anything else the Akashic Records um, wants to say about that or the other components of eclipse season. These feel to me like I know that eclipse season in general is very big and powerful, impactful, but it feels like to me personally, and I don't know if you could back this up astrologically, the changes that we've made were freaking huge earlier this year. And so like even though there are changes coming up and what you're saying, Jessica, it feels less volatile than it does before. It feels more small. It feels more tactile. It feels more tangible. It feels more impactful to your day to day instead of your entire world. I think that's the way that I want to put how I'm feeling about eclipse seasons. I don't know if that you can back that up or if that makes sense to you.
It does make sense because, for example, Saturn had moved into Aries as of May. So from May until September 1st, it's been in Aries. And the way I describe Aries energy is Aries kicks down the door and then is like, where are we going? Like they act first. So that energy in our lives, and I know you said that you are double Aries,
Yep.
so it's like, let's just get this going, you know. And really you're a triple cardinal sign too. Sorry if I just kind of go
Yep.
off on a tangent. I do this a lot. I'm double air. I can't help myself.
Love it.
But like triple, so cardinal signs start something. Every single cardinal sign initiates the change of a new season. So you have a lot of that, let's get going, let's do it, etc. So Aries, so many planets being in Aries really kind of brought a very noticeable change, fresh start, intensity, because Aries is a fire sign. There's a lot of movement, a lot of change, and a lot of um heat, if you will, to all that stuff. So, like you're saying, it kind of starts to move back into Pisces where it has been, where we're comfortable, where we need to kind of reassess and say, is this where we want to go? Are we ready to cut ties? Um, Listen, the universe is great in the way that it always gives us the opportunity to grow. And if we didn't get it right the first time, they keep giving us opportunities to get it right. So this could be situations that are reemerging that we, are meant to cut ties with. Because the truth about eclipse season, when I was talking before about universe kind of being at the wheel, things are going to abruptly end, abruptly appear, or change without any notice. The rug being pulled out from under your feet, that is definitely, um, you know, what this is all about. And it sounds like that's also what you're talking about and getting from the Akashic Records.
I would agree with that. And it feels like even though it is abrupt change, you're gonna have the tools you need to deal with it. I don't know. That's how I'm feeling. Like I'm feeling like change, but it's not. Again, it's not as volatile because I think earlier in the year, it was an abrupt change that you weren't ready for, and or you didn't have the tools for it. But you spent the last whatever 6 months or so getting these tools under your tool belt. So I'm actually real. I love change. I'm that weird person that I love change. So I'm all about this.
Oh my
Hmm.
God, yes. Yeah. Yeah, because you know what? Saturn also spends a year and a half to 2 years in every sign. So for the last year and a half to 2 years, Saturn has been in Pisces. So, we started fresh in Aries and it went, we're taking a little leap back into Pisces. So this is something that people have been growing, learning, obtaining the skills to deal with difficult situations, etc., get that that internal drive to do better for themselves, evolve, do the scary thing, etc. And so we're moving back into that space where it'll probably propel people so further forward. And you know what, Saturn will end up going back into Aries, but you know for now we get a little bit of that comfort and what's familiar maybe, and we'll, like you said, know kind of what to do with that. So that's
Love
what I've
it.
got to say about September
Same.
1st.
Okay. We covered one of the 30 days. Got it.
It's just a really prominent, significant transit that's happening,
Mhm.
and it affects so many people, especially if you have listeners that are you know, um, anywhere from 28 to 30, 31, they would have just gone through their very first Saturn return. Usually, when we go through our Saturn return, there is a very prominent life event that tends to happen, positive or negative, that's life changing, that they could go, oh, yeah, and then when you're about double that age, you go through your second Saturn return. So, for the folks that are listening that are going through that, if you had some major things going on in your life, it may reemerge here, or you may be dealing with it and overcoming it here, etc.
Super interesting. I had no idea. All right. So what's next after September? What happens on September 2nd, Jessica?
So these transits do tend to
Yeah.
have like a radiating effect, so like you'll probably feel it lingering and things like that. But the next major transit that I wanted to talk about was September 7th. We're going to have a total lunar eclipse in Pisces. Um, and so we've already experienced a Pisces eclipse. And so eclipses happen in series. They happen in a series over about a year and a half time. And so we already experienced one. I don't have the date readily available for you. But so they tend to happen in themes. So, like I said before, the universe kind of often will give you like lots of growing opportunities for you to apply maybe what you learned in past lessons, etc. So on September 6th, September 7th, we're going to be having that total lunar eclipse in Pisces. Um, and so it's eclipsing near this destiny point that we're kind of wanting more and growing toward and striving. So this is going to really push personal growth for a lot of people. You know, there's a lot of very punctuated Pisces energy in the astrology for September. And it just kind of makes us, it drives home this idea of surrender. I'll pause there.
I love that. It's really interesting for me because I believe what I ended up writing before you joined was pretty massive protests for most of the month of September. And it's just interesting for me because I feel and I agree with everything that you just said in terms of the Akashic records. And I think there is some sort of personal growth, but also I think there's a personal alignment to values as well. And realizing what you stand for and what you value and not limiting your voice because of it as well. And I think this is part of your personal growth, but I do see collectively we start joining voices a little bit more in the month of September in a way we haven't before. So I'm interested to see how that goes down because I'm just feeling the power of what you're saying, but it almost feels amplified or multiplied because of what is going on socially within, I won't even say the United States because I think it's the world as well. And I love it. I kind of, I'm here for this. I'm here for this collective undoing and growing and using our voice to showcase our values. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, basically everything that you were just talking about is describing the transit of Pluto in Aquarius that we're going through. So when we look at astrology and we've got, astrology still honors Pluto. I mean, I know astronomy kind of like axed it out and was like, sorry, dude, you're not a part of the club anymore. But astrology still does see it as that. So, as far as the planets go, they all have a significance. And the sign of Aquarius really is power to the people. And so Pluto symbolizes transformation, death, rebirth. And so that's where you start to see things crumble. And so that Aquarian energy and that raising our voices to make a collective difference and crumble maybe systems that are now outdated and not what we chose and not what we want, etc. That is really the time that we're in right now. So you are totally explaining that Pluto in Aquarius energy.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so a little bit more. I wanted to talk about the eclipses with
Mhm.
Pisces and Virgo. So we are going to be in Virgo season. So hello to all the Virgos. Happy birthday. The sun moved into Virgo season at the end of August and stays there into, for the better part of September. Virgo, like I was kind of joking about before when I was talking about, perhaps a placement that your husband may have or, something. Virgo is very methodical and organized and rational and um and altruistic as well, likes to help. They like to strategize, here's how the best method would be, etc. So that is definitely the methodology of a Virgo. And going back to these eclipses, the eclipse is occurring in Pisces, but the south node, this is a little jargony, so I apologize if this is just a little too much, but the north node of the moon is in Pisces, and that's where we're eclipsing, but it's also playing off of the south node, which is its polar opposite in Virgo. And so, like I was just describing that energy of Virgo, I like to talk about the two of them together because they're not necessarily polar opposites. They're just the opposite side of the same coin. And so they kind of make each other complete. between these two concepts. Pisces is all about surrendering to the things that you can't see. And it's a water sign. If you think about water and you were to take water and pour it on your desk, it would go everywhere into the cracks and crevices, spill over. There's nothing to contain it. But Virgo is that container. And Virgo gives structure and boundaries to that limitless, ethereal nature of Pisces. So I bring this up because these are really the points and the themes that may be coming up for a lot of us astrologically during these eclipses, because we're going to have two in September, a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. So, these energies are going to be really, really potent. Pisces and Virgo, surrender and boundaries, the ethereal and the earthbound.
Just laughing because I'm just, oh God, it sounds like more drama, right? I love the way you explained it though, because it makes so much sense. But wow, that's unbelievable.
So September 7th, we have that total lunar eclipse, like I mentioned, in Pisces. And then come September 21st, we're going to have the solar eclipse, new moon in Virgo. And like I was just saying, that is the south node. So this is the way I think about north node and south node of eclipse. I compare it with a full moon and a new moon, maybe for people who are a little bit more familiar working with the moon. So full moon, we tend to release. New moon, we have limitless potential, and that is a really ripe time to manifest. So so North Node is kind of like the part that we are working toward and growing toward, and the South Node in Virgo, that's what we're releasing. That would be a great time to like release the urge to be, that perfectionism is a real Virgo trait that a lot of us deal with and can resonate with. So that's like a great time to try to release the urge to be perfect, to, be so analytical and be so precise, and kind of lean in more to what is unseen. Because going back to what you were talking about, Nicole, and this power back to the people concept and um, protests, we really do have a lot going on beneath the surface that's not being seen, right? Like the revolution will not be televised. The real truth
100%.
cannot be seen all the time. So that is something that I feel like the astrology is supporting.
Oh, I love that. Okay.
Basically, we've got those two eclipses, which in and of itself are going to be major. And we have Saturn retrograding back into Pisces, and then we're eclipsing in Pisces. So there is a very, very big theme for September's astrology to surrender. Surrender to what you can't see and what you believe in, and having faith, releasing the need for control. And that's my theme.
I love that. Yes, thank you. And that's really where I wanted to go, is because I think people are really tired, and I think people need to start surrendering. And I think there's a lot of things that we have held on to for so long that don't serve us. So this makes complete sense to me, that September feels like the beginning of the routine for me, but also I love the theme of surrender. And I think there's so many people that are trying to control so much at this point, and we can't do it all. And I think we need to go through these energy transmutations. We need to become less of what society, our parents, our childhood expects us to be, and moving more into who we are meant to be in this lifetime. And I see this personally as themes within my clients. And I love that September really is the month for surrender.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
seeing if there's anything else in the records that they wanted me to call out. Not only just surrendering, I think I want to take that one additional step forward. And I want to say it aligns with the beginning of the year theme that I've had, that they also said is community. And so reaching out and asking for help when you need it, asking for help, like helping people who have asked you for help. So part of that surrender is realizing that you can't do it all, and create, when you realize you can't do it all, reach out to people for help and create that community aspect, because everybody collectively, to your point, Jessica, needs to surrender. And so we can help each other harness that capability and start like, this is the projector in me. This is, I don't know if this is a Libra or an Aries thing as well, but start using each other's strengths for efficiency purposes. And so I love this idea of surrender for the month of September. I think it's great advice. I know so many people that focus and wanting to heal their perfectionism. I mean, who doesn't, right? God, including myself. And so I'm actually in love with this idea of September and surrendering in the eclipse season and the Saturn retrograde and all of these amazing things to come, because change is uncomfortable, but until we start surrendering to all the change, we aren't going to help us get on our highest and best path. So I love that the astrology for the month really represents that.
Yeah, amen. And you know what? We're also in the year of the wood snake, and the snake sheds its skin. And
Oh,
so, like I had been saying, the universe gives us lots of opportunities over and over again. And the harder we resist, the more we cling to what we know, even though it's, it we are being pushed into change. And that is what is, I feel, playing into this bigger theme of being in this great awakening. It's really, really rocking people to the core. If COVID didn't already do that, but all of the things that are happening on the global scale, I really believe is meant to drive discomfort so that we can kind of, get to where we need to go on a soul level.
love that. And it is a 9 month in a 9 year. So, so that makes complete sense. You're saying the snake, and I was like, wait a second, shedding the snakes. That's a 9 year. That's right. Okay. And then it's September in that 9 year. So yeah, this is going to be fun. So apologies in advance, everybody. This is going to be the great undoing month for all of you.
But don't be afraid. Don't
No,
fear it. Don't fear it. Don't be afraid. It's okay. It's meant for your greatest and highest good. It really, really is.
that's amazing. If people are looking for more specific astrology for the month of September or anything else they're going through, that's something that you can help them with, correct?
Absolutely. And I can even take a look at their birth chart and tell them how this is specifically impacting them, because it's going to impact us all very differently depending on where the planets were when you were born, etc. And, what houses they were moving through of yours at the time. I know that probably is an unfamiliar term, but yeah, absolutely. I can definitely astrologically take a look at what's happening and then use that intuitive piece of what I do with my clients to kind of help guide them and reassure them.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. So for those of you that aren't in touch with her, so she is Charmed Astro Intuition with some underscores on Instagram and some periods on TikTok. I'll include that in the show notes, and I'll certainly tag her as we start releasing these podcast episodes. But I know she does amazing work, and I can personally vouch for Jessica, her integrity, her knowledge, her specialty, and I'm sure you've heard it all here today. So definitely reach out to her if you are looking for any virtual or in-person readings. Where are you located out of?
I'm located on Long Island, so for
Long
anybody
Island.
who might be listening on Long Island, I do some in-person readings, but the majority of my clients I do, virtually.
Oh, I love that. You're not too far from me. I'll hop a ferry to go see you.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh my goodness. So she not only does astrology with the birth chart readings, but also Akashic records as well as tarot and oracle as well. So she is a wealth of knowledge, and I'm just so excited to have you. Thank you so much for being here, Jessica.
Nicole, you are so much fun. This was so much fun. And I have no doubt that this is going to help at least a few people out there saying, what in the world is going on? I have a fun little segment that I do call What in the Cosmos is Going On. And I think that this is a really great way to help those that are just kind of feeling it and they don't know what they're feeling. Yeah. Thank you for your
Oh my
kind
goodness.
words and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. And I, again, for those of you that love Jessica, check out the show notes and um, check out her amazing readings that she posts as well. So thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful day.